Welcome back, MTG Joe here, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. These are my top 5 cards I would like to see added to Historic. Historic is the format on Arena, if you're not familiar. It's like the Eternal format, kind of the legacy or modern of Arena. It allows you to play all the cards that have been inputted into Arena. That includes standard legal sets, extra sets like Jumpstart or the Mystical Archives that were just printed, as well as direct to historic cards through their anthology program. So it's a very powerful format at this point. We recently had cards like Brainstorm and Faithless Looting be added. So these are the kind of the top 5 cards I would like to see injected in the near future. So first one up, at number 5, is Monastery Swiftspear. This card will eventually make its way into Arena, but we have seen them kind of jump the line with cards like Thoughtseize and Collected Company. Monastery Swiftspear fits a number of aggressive strategies, it being a 1-mana, 1/2 haste prowess creature. So usually Monastery Swiftspear sees play in burn strategies, is it tempo style strategies, potentially even stuff like Feather. We had a kind of budgety kind of port version in Clever Lumimancer that was just printed. Now, the big thing with something like Lumimancer over Swiftspear and something, say, like Boros Burn that I've been playing a lot of, is the fact Swiftspear is always a 1/2 creature. Lumimancer is a 0/1. So if you don't have spells, it can't really do anything. Also, the haste at least lets you come down and start putting pressure right away on your opponent. Also, it doesn't require you to have white on turn 1, which for a burn deck, you pretty much want all your resources to be red-based. So this creature, I think, would help a lot of the low-to-the-ground aggro decks in Historic have a chance, and potentially even something against like the Angels deck, just allowing you to put more pressure on. I think it's important in a format to have aggressive decks to keep kind of the slow, dirtily decks intact. What we have next is All Is Dust. So kind of on the other end of things, we had a 1-drop, and what I want to see is a 7-drop. And particularly this card, it is a 7-mana colorless Eldrazi sorcery. Each player sacrifices all colored permanents he or she controls. Notably, lands are not colorless not colored permanents. But this is a kind of a key card, I think, that would fit into the kind of Tron strategy that we have in Historic. We have the colorless package with like Karn into Ugin. But the big thing with that deck is it just folds hard to aggro. And just if they play Extinction Event, you kind of stretch your mana. You can play Shadow's Verdict, but ultimately, I think this card would be really helpful. You can get ahead. This can be like a turn 4 or 5, depending on your ramp package, to play this out. So this could kind of give that strategy some legs. It's also an interesting sweeper for kind of non-white based decks, just another way to kind of deal with troublesome permanents out of the board. Moving on, Lingering Souls. One of my all-time favorite cards printed. I played a ton of this when it was in Standard. So Lingering Souls fits a bunch of different archetypes. Face side, 3 mana, 2/2 flying tokens. You can also flash it back for 2 mana out of your graveyard to create 2 more spirits. So for 5 mana collectively, you get 4 1/1 flyers. This card was played in combo decks that played like Aristocrat style. So Sacrifice, Drain. So we have cards like Blood Artist, Bastion of Remembrance, the other one, Blood Artist Light, the Vampire one. It could fit into like a sack deck. It could fit into a token strategy, a self-mill strategy. We have stuff right now like Rakdos Arcanist, or like even to some extent Jund Arcanist. If you have a self-mill strategy, this kind of opens you up to Mardu. Additionally, I also played this card at times in Esper Control back in the day. It is potentially a win condition. It can keep you alive early, and it lets you kind of be flexible with how you play the game. So I think a card like this just opens you up to a lot of different strategies that you can play out. Moving to number 2, and probably one that might be too powerful, Snapcaster Mage. Probably one of the best 2-drops and one of the best control cards ever printed. If you haven't played with Snapcaster Mage before, it is a tempo card. It is a win con at times. It is pretty much everything you want to do in a control shell or a tempo shell. Basically lets you flash back any card, instant, or sorcery from your graveyard by paying its mana cost. So very similar to something like Torrential Gear Hulk. Torrential Gear Hulk can only target instants. Snapcaster Mage can target something like a Wrath of God in your graveyard. You do have to pay the mana, where Gear Hulk is basically free value. So this plays better in a low to the ground where you have cheaper spells. So if you have something like Brainstorm, you can flash back your Brainstorm. Something like Prismari Command. So there's flexibility in this card, and I think just with the shift in terms of power level, this would be something that would be cool to have in the format to let you play more Drago control. So it's something cool. I always used to like this card. I played a bunch of Grixis and Blue-White and Esper control around Innistrad RTR standard, so I played a ton of Snapcaster Mages. Now, my number one card that I think would be great fun in Historic, Aether Vial. We have a ton of tribal synergies that have come out in recent sets, and there's a bunch of fringe archetypes. You have merfolks, to some extent humans. Elves has found a way around, goblins has found a way around, something like even pirates maybe. But Aether Vial is usually the glue that holds together a lot of these tribal decks. It lets you basically flash in creatures of converted mana cost and let you kind of play around. So usually the issue with tribal decks is you kind of commit all in. You kind of play out your creatures, you get board wiped, and then that's it. But with this, you can kind of play at instant speed. It lets you play your creatures with enter the battlefield effects at different intervals, and it kind of screws up your opponent's game plan at times. This is seen at times in like Death and Taxes shells and Legacy, but I think this would be a cool card. So I've tried Merfolk a bunch of times, but it's just kind of too slow right now. Similarly with humans, like on opponent's upkeep, Flash and Thalia, or as we get other types of cards, if you're playing Spirits, you'll be able to flash in like all your kind of cards like that. So it's a kind of a cool card. I think it would allow you to kind of just further build out those tribal synergies and just, you know, more decks there. I just want to have a nice variety and explore different kind of concepts, and this is a card that's really powerful in other formats. We got Brainstorm, we got Looting, we have Thoughtseize. You know, let's keep injecting some cool, powerful cards into the format. So these are my top 5 right now. A couple other cards I was thinking of, just more of a personal kind of cards that mean a lot to me. Restoration Angel, Olivia Voldaren, maybe even Liliana the Veil. Just cards I enjoyed. I pretty much could have put Innistrad block here and then just, you know, basically reprint Innistrad block and I'd be happy. But these are kind of a mix of cards that I think would be cool to have in the Historic format. So let me know what you think, what cards I missed, if there's any iconic cards that you think would be cool to be injected, or if you disagree with any of my picks, think they're too strong, anything like that. It'd be cool to hear what you have to say. Anyways, thanks for watching, and catch you next time.